Joined by my panel, and we begin from the far left. That's George Wachiuri, who's the CEO of Optiven Group. We have Alex Kariuki, the CEO of Royelle Group, who's an entrepreneur. We'll explain why he has the helmet and a bit more of things on just in front of him. We also have Maina, who's an investment analyst at Cytonn, and we have Reginald Kadzutu, the Chief Investment Officer at Amana Capital. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
And let me just begin right from that end, coming this way. What is your overall outlook of what the 2019 economy will look like, especially for you now who's in real estate?
Thank you. I think we are optimistic for 2019, given that we were able to survive in 2018, just after 2017 when we had a lot of issues. And we are looking at real estate industry to improve, given that we are hoping that the political noises will reduce so that we are able to work. And we are very optimistic, on real estate.
Okay, I'll come to you, Alex, as an entrepreneur. What is your outlook? What do you hope for? Do you foresee?
Actually, 2018 was a challenge, and as I have international experience, I moved back from United States and I came to invest to Kenya. So with the new outlook, it looks like the economy will be very positive. The growth, as they perceive, it's going to be very positive.
Okay. Yeah. Faith.
In our view, I think we could have a better year, but a lot will need to be done in terms of containing the politics to just keep the investor sentiment positive. Otherwise, we could also see a decline if things are not kept in check.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good man.
I think I'm going to be the devil's advocate here.
Yeah, please do. Let's move away from the nice talk, right?
Everything does not point to 2019 being that good. On the contrary, facts and figures point to 2019 being not a very good year. 2018 was good because we were coming from a slump. So generally, you will go back up. If you look at what has driven economic growth in 2018 is the agricultural sector, which was recovering from the hula baloo from 2017. The agricultural sector has stabilized, and it controls 30-something% of GDP. And I don't see the agricultural sector growing at 5-6% per quarter like what it was doing last year. That's already 2%, 3% of the 6% GDP growth that will be knocked out. If you look at why the government has been borrowing or how the economy has been growing over the years, it has been predominantly because of government expenditure. So if you look at your normal GDP equation, there's consumer spending, private, corporate, and households. You have investment, government spending, then your differential between exports and imports. That is in negative, drastically negative. Consumer expenditure is not seen growing in 2019. Yeah? Investment is also not going to grow. For the last 5 years, we've been having a negative net saving as a country to the tune of close to 400 billion. In terms of you take the revenue, take the expenditure, we are not saving anything, and you cannot invest without saving. Then you look at government expenditure. The most of government expenditure the last 5 years was on SGR and roads funded by China through borrowing. This year they will still borrow, but that borrowing is not going to go to any development whatsoever. It's going to repay debt. So I also see government expenditure reducing. So most things don't point to 2019 being a very good year.
Okay, and I'll come back to you on that. And George, you mentioned about the politics. And so far, are we seeing any impact? I mean, the noise started, it's not been a very extended period at the moment. But now we are seeing it's continuing and it seems to be escalating. Are we already seeing an impact as we speak?
I would say that it is a bit early to speculate, and we are hoping that His Excellency the President and Honorable Odinga will be able to contain the noise. So far, we haven't seen any impact, but I would say that the gap between 2018 and 2019 in real estate, we have seen a bit of interest, especially buyers from out, the diaspora remittance. You know that last year we got a huge increase, almost 42% more. And we are hoping that these diasporians, they are going to invest more, and their preferred investment is actually real estate. Personally, as Optiven, we have handled quite a number of diasporians who are doing their own homes, they are doing their own properties, they are buying their own properties. And we are hoping that once this noise reduces, of course, as the Faith says, we need that confidence for people who are willing to invest in real estate. And for us in real estate, we are thinking that 2019 must be better. Of course, I'm an entrepreneur, must be optimistic. And because entrepreneurs believe in creating the future, we are hoping that 2019 is going to be better than 2018. But we really request our politicians to mind their mouth. Because for us entrepreneurs, we need that peace. And that's why we are happy with the handshake. Because after the handshake, we were able to close more deals. And we are hoping that if this peace continues and noise reduces, we are going to continue the deals. And as we do the deals, we create employment. And of course, we develop this beautiful nation.
Okay. Faith, he's mentioned you in terms of when you talked about the political noise. He's largely spoken on the real estate. What about the broader economy? Are we seeing, and he alluded to it, are we seeing any kind of impact already so far based on the political noise that's there?
Looking from the performance, especially from last year all the way to this year, the stock exchange suffered a lot, mainly because of the investor sentiments. The loss in the prices that we experienced, we had an 18% drop in Nairobi, in the all-share index. And it's because of foreign investors not feeling comfortable in investing in Kenya, mainly because of the IMF report and Kenya being upgraded in terms, or downgraded in terms of debt. So as much as right now the foreign investors don't feel comfortable investing already, so if we pile the political tension on that, it's going to get worse. So I think we're already feeling the negative investor sentiment, and it can only get worse if we put politics into it as well. And as we talk about even the handshake, there are also people talking about the referendum, and the election always has a negative impact on the economy. Any election in Kenya has had a negative impact on the economy. So if this is going to happen again, then we would also expect to have a negative impact on the economy, especially the stock exchange.
Okay, and you know, when she mentioned about the referendums, first of all, there's many reasons why it's being called for, but one of them is about the cost of living, which would ideally be to make life easier, like, you know, like we are saying, for the common Mwananchi and also the well-off. I mean, we shouldn't segregate anyone from having an easier life, you know, but would this call for referendum, would it be justified if it was about pulling down the cost of living? Because then it would be like a cost we have to bear to have a better life afterwards.
Yes, I guess that would make sense. But the current cost of living that we have is predominantly pushed by some fiscal mistakes that we've made over the years. When most of your income goes to repaying debt and repaying interest on debt, then you reduce your disposable income. And I'll just go back to the element of a negative saving as a country. You cannot grow a country, especially in the future, running and developing a negative saving. The other day, the president compared Kenya to Japan and said Japan is at 200% debt. But Japan saves from the interest from their saving, they can repay their debt. But we have to borrow to repay our debt. One thing that I see the referendum, if it does come to place, that it will help do, especially the proposals that they want to put in place of reducing MCAs, reducing the number of counties and all. If they can reduce the wage bill, especially for the counties and for the country at whole, it will reduce pressure on the fiscus. But if you look at the revenue and expenditure, or actually if you look at the revenue generated by counties, we can't really say county governments are working. The only county that has double-digit revenue is Nairobi at 20 billion. The next one is way behind at 4 billion in terms of revenue they generate locally. So there's completely something wrong there that needs to be looked at. And if it has to go through a referendum because it's constitutional, then well and good. But again, it has to be planned. But we should not peg our hopes on a referendum because there are so many things that the fiscus can do and the monetary policy can do to try and turn around or stabilize the ship. It may not be for 2019, it may not be for 2020, but if they start making the right policy moves, yes, then the future starts looking brighter.
And just before I cross back to this, the good people on the panel, you've mentioned the Japan issue. What exactly is, some have argued that no, it's not a like-for-like comparison. The president was likely trying to say even the big economies borrow. But what give us the context of why probably it may not be a like-for-like kind of comparison.
The first part, which is not like for like, is you can't compare yourself to someone who produces 1,000 times bigger than you. So you can say he has 200% debt, so I'll also have 200% debt. But he produces 1,000 times more with his debt than what you do with your debt. That's number one. Number two, his debt is going into investments that we can say this is what we are getting from it. Right now, if you look at the savings and the benefits from SGR compared to the cost of running it and the cost of even implementing it, we are still running a loss. Unless certain things are changed for it to change. Look at what they do with their debt in terms of priority of investments. I'll give you an example. The largest sector in our economy is agriculture at around 24–25%, followed by the manufacturing sector. The manufacturing sector, 50% of the manufacturing sector is agro-processing. So in essence, we can easily say that 35–40% of the Kenyan economy is driven by agriculture. Look at the amount of money flow to the agricultural sector from the government and from the banking sector. Agricultural sector is one of the lowest sectors that get funding. It actually has a negative trend in terms of growth of credit to that sector. So if you starve the sector that is contributing the most to GDP and pumping money into sectors that are not enabling that other sector, you'll find we will be in this vicious cycle for quite a long time. China itself, the largest economy based on purchasing power and second on nominal GDP, agriculture contributes $920 billion to the GDP of China. It employs 300 million people. But we have been indoctrinated to think development is moving away from agriculture to now having industries and all that. But if we actually grow agriculture, and it is being proven that a 3% growth, no, a 5% growth in agriculture spares a 3% growth in the rest of the economy. So we are borrowing, but the priority of where we are putting the money for borrowing compared to the other places the president is comparing to, their priorities are right. They are producing more, and they're getting a higher return on that capital than we are.
Okay, thank you. That's some good clarity. And one of the issues that was seen in 2018, 2017 as well, the concerns around the interest rate, which have affected SMEs especially. You know, the entrepreneurs, you're some of the biggest people who suffered. Has this been the case for you, and what has your experience been like?
Being new in the Kenyan economy and having have a different experience on different business level, it definitely has to change because of when the economy doesn't work for the middle class or doesn't work for the people in the lower gauge. It doesn't, the economy doesn't grow. That's just about it. Because the upper class few cannot be able to sustain the economy. We need the middle class. So when the economy is not growing, and when the stocks are not doing well, it means the economy will not be doing well.
Okay, and so for you yourself, as in your own business, in your own capacity in your business,
Yeah.
have you had to try and get any kind of financing that has been a challenge for you?
Of course, it has been a challenge. Being a new entrepreneur, it has been a challenge because when you ask for any financial assistance from any institution, they would like to see what you have done. And now they're asking you what you have done, and you are starting a new business. So it's a challenge. It's quite a challenge. Because I was looking at a point of when we are new entrepreneurs, can we have a set of way to help the new ones who are coming in, especially when it comes to setting business plans, registering the company, doing the patent. Because when you ask for the bank for the finances, they'll always ask you, can we get 6 months worth of statement? And that usually that is a challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have something to say?
Thank you for mentioning entrepreneurs. Let me say that part of the people who are facing serious challenges, it's we people in entrepreneurship. And the issue is not even cost of credit, it's access to credit. Because for us entrepreneurs, even if you give me money at 20%, I'll pick and do business with it. But that access is not there because after the capping, many financial institutions were shying away, especially for new entrepreneurs like my friend Alex here. And we found a lot of people closing shop because they have no working capital, they have no money to transact. And if you look at the data from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, for the last 5 years, 2.2 million small businesses and medium businesses have closed shop completely. That means many jobs have been lost. If you look at the surviving ones, about 1.7 million entrepreneurs, they are also looking for that access, but it's not there. So I think this is an appeal to financial institutions to have some packages for people who are beginners or people who have got an idea to finance that idea. But as Alex says, that is not there. And even for us who have been in business for 20 years, we are facing the similar challenges. We are in development. We are doing construction. Today, if you do a proposal for construction, they are not, many financial institutions are not interested to fund. Of course, you are aware that from World Bank, from Central Bank reports, we in real estate, we have borrowed about 400 billion. To be exact, it's about 392 billion borrowing. 44 billion, they are loans that are not performing, so at risk. So you take a proposal there for construction, affordable homes, they are not willing to finance you. That means that these big four, we are talking about creating affordable homes for our people, might be a pipe dream, because if Optiven cannot be able to get finances to build affordable homes, the government can only do a drop. It's a drop in the ocean. So we are thinking that the policymakers need to rethink on how to achieve this particular agenda through entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are the backbone of the economy because they're the people who create jobs, they're the people who pay taxes, and sometimes we are getting worried because every day we wake up in the morning, we find a new tax. The other day we had the Robin Hood tax, whereby you are transferring money, you pay 0.05%. And that is a bit worrying because for us, when our customers come to transfer money, because we are dealing with land issues and properties, you find that the customer want to do many transactions to evade half a million transfer. That means the people who are making these policies need to rethink, because the more you tax the people, the more you put the burden to pay maybe those loans my friend is talking about. It means that more entrepreneurs might close shop. When they close shop, our youth won't get jobs. And that's why for us in business, we are seeing these young people from the universities. They're always looking for jobs, but those jobs are not there. So let's think about SME and medium enterprises and entrepreneurs on how to support them to be able to grow this economy.
Okay. You had a comment then. I think you cannot comment on the same.
Maybe just to support George on it, and I think that the major failure comes from the banking institutions and people like us, fund managers. We collect savings from people as fund managers, and does banks. They pool savings. But we are supposed to be allocators of capital. And we have, sorry to say, failed dismally in allocating capital. When George needs money, he needs to get funding. He needs to come even to a fund manager and say, this is the proposal I have. Can you fund me? So as fund managers and as banks in Kenya and generally in Africa, we have generally failed the economies. Why do I say that? If you look at our balance sheet and our books and our investment and everything, close to 80% of our funds are in government paper. Government bonds, treasury bills, and all. Yeah, but the government is the most poorest and pathetic allocator of capital. They eat it through corruption, and we don't see the development on the ground. So we are buying bonds, buying treasury bills. Yes, we're getting 10%, 12%. They pay off their debt, but we are killing the economy. Because entrepreneurs are supposed to have access to funds. Sure. And once entrepreneurs get access to funds, when George comes or Alex comes for funding, especially if he comes from a fund manager, I'll say, okay, I'll give you 2 billion, but I want 2 board seats on your board. How does that help? It also helps Alex, who's a new entrepreneur, tap into the skills of guys who have been in business for a long time in terms of financial management, working capital management, strategy, and all. So we're not just giving money blindly, but we're giving money and also putting skills, because when Alex grows, generally the economy grows. So banks, fund managers, and insurance companies have been poor allocators of capital. I can maybe defend fund managers a bit. Our prudential guidelines don't really allow us to do much of private equity, which is sad. So I think our regulators also need to look at this and say, how do you, because at the end of the day, you put regulations to protect the client's funds. But these are the same clients who give us money this way, come round and they want funding. So I'm telling the guy, you are too risky, I can't give you your money. Yeah, literally I'm telling him, I can't give you your money. You are too risky. I'll give it to the government. Let the government do what they need to do with it. On government, for the last couple of years, there is no development that has been paid from our taxes. It's all been borrowed. So that means whatever we give to the government goes to pay salaries. It does not go to development. So when banks and fund managers start opening their eyes, and if we want to grow and compare ourselves to the Japans and the US, go to the US, have a business plan, you have business angels, you have venture capitalists, you have fund managers, you have banks who are willing to fund you. And that's how they've grown. That's how Facebook grew. That's how WhatsApp grew. That's how Bill Gates grew. That's how all those guys grew. They did not go from being told, we'll give you a loan at 20%, give us 5 years security to do that. So as banks and as fund managers, unfortunately, we have failed the country in terms of allocating resources to the most productive areas of the economy.
Faith, then we'll come to you.
And I'm glad he said it. I don't have to repeat that the banks have failed us. If you look at the economy of Kenya today, 90% of funding has to come from banks. So you are asking people to borrow from banking institutions that are not willing to fund businesses. And I think the solution would be to open up the capital markets so that people have options, and then the banks will not have the dominance they have as it is currently. If banks had, if people had other options where they can fund their businesses from, as he said, private equity, venture capitalists, if our economy and our policies allowed for such investments, then it would make it easier for people to borrow elsewhere instead of having to go to the bank and borrow. And in that case, without the dominance of the bank, then even with the interest rate cap, we would still see private sector credit growth going up. Currently, we are at 4.3%, and we keep saying it's growing, but we have come from an average of 12% the last 5 years. So we still have a long way to go. And I don't think without amending the interest rate cap or opening up our capital markets, we have a solution to this problem. And if we are not funding our SMEs, as my friend said, then we don't have a growing economy.
Okay. Yeah. You have something to add, Alex?
Yeah, I just also wanted to add about there are funds that have been set aside. There's a youth fund, there's a Tujiajiri fund, but I really don't know if these funds work for the youth usually. I think it's for you, because you have to go, the process of getting the funds is just too complicated for the youth to access the funds. So if they're genuinely willing to help the youths and with the WESO fund and the youth fund, I think they should simplify the system for the youth to get access for the funds.
Okay, yeah. And one of the things that has been a concern as well has been debt, which has been mentioned partly here. What do we foresee in regards to debt 2019? What does our debt conversation look like in 2019? Will it be still another case of it keeps going up where we have crossed 5 trillion shillings? Yeah. We've crossed 5 trillion shillings. Are we foreseeing that it will keep going up without much reprieve in terms of paying off and having some more peace about it, or do we foresee still more borrowing as has been promised? Take it round this way. Okay.
Borrowing, they have to borrow, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They have close to 900 billion due this year. And most of it is denominated in dollars. So they will have to borrow. The worrying bit, if you look at the structure of the debt, I think something that central bank needs to put their foot down. And I think Governor Njuguna can, Governor Njoroge can put his foot down and take a risk whether he gets reappointed or not, but leaves a legacy of restructuring our debt. You can't have more than 400 billion in debt from commercial banks denominated in dollars. Does not make sense for a country that has less than 500 billion in terms of exports. So if you look at your export and you look at what you have in debt in dollar denomination, it completely does not make sense. And what supports our foreign reserves is not more of the exports, it's actually more of diaspora remittances, which the government has no role or play to convince you in UK to send your money. You send because you care for someone here. Or Optiven has convinced you to buy a property somewhere in Kiambu. So it becomes a big problem where your major source of dollars is not in your control. So we have close to 400 billion in commercial debt, foreign debt denominated in dollars. So if So borrowing, they have to borrow, because they have 900 billion that they have to pay. So they're going to borrow to repay that. The only problem is that they're not going to borrow it at the same 5%, 6%. I'm actually seeing them borrowing at 10%, 9%. And in US dollars, it's a pity that you're borrowing in US dollars at 10%, 9%. Then locally also, you still have a lot, most of Kenya's debt, not most of it, close to 40%, 50% is below 10 years. They need to lengthen the maturity of their debt. It gives them more time for these investments to actually start bearing fruit and them to be able to repay the debt from the investments they've made. But if you have most of your debt in T-bills, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year paper, that means in the next 5 years, but the next government is coming, the first thing they see is a huge bill that they have to pay. Something else that is not being mentioned is this year Kenya has close to 150 billion in pension liability the government has to pay. They're going to have to borrow that 100 and 150 because it's not in the budget. So they have to borrow and pay for it. So borrowing is going to definitely be there. Is the borrowing going to help the economy this year? No.
Faith.
Our debt we crossed the 50% to GDP a long time ago. We were at 57 in June last year. So, and it brought a very big outcry. IMF was saying we need to do something about it. So it has made our country riskier, and as he said, if we are going to borrow this year, we'll have to pay more expensively for our debt, because then we are not even on safe grounds to be able to borrow. And number two, in the first 6 months of the year of 2019, the government has to repay 200 billion in debt, in forms of debt we borrowed from Standard Chartered and other institutions. And we really don't have this money, so it can only tap into the foreign reserves and to be able to repay. And once it does this, and it still needs the reserves to support the shillings, we'll have to go back again and borrow so that we can replenish our foreign reserves. So it's a cycle that we keep going around in, and I think it's going to be very detrimental to our economy in the long run. So as he said, we need to either restructure our debt, and also we need a plan on, you see, the government borrows, but no one knows what the plan of repayment is. They don't tell us we are planning to repay this debt like this. So all we know is they have this amount of debt, but we don't know what the repayment plan is. So I think it's important that the government actually has a proper plan of repayment for its debt, something that is actually actionable and can be seen, that will be able to be effected. And I think we'll still have to borrow, if that's the question.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to get what do we foresee, for just to make it clear at the very beginning of the year, the kind of conversations we are foreseeing in regards to debt going forward. And I want to bring out some that's been also is going to be key focus when it comes to the economy, is about the Big Four agenda. Yeah. You know, and so Wachiuri, you're in a sector which one of the pillars sits on, and you alluded to it briefly.
Yes.
Do we foresee great progress this year, because with the agenda that's there to have the 800,000 houses and the likes by 2022, a lot needs to be done now, and the government said it was doing some groundwork. It has been doing groundwork as from last year. You know, and they said that they're going to ensure that they can move away from you developers, the cost of buying the land and some of the facilities, the 40% that's taken by land, that now you can develop at a lower cost. What I like that you're laughing that way, but what mileage do you think we'll achieve in 2019?
Let me say that the 2018 government was very vibrant on advocating for especially housing agenda, because you know that 67% of our people are in formal sector. So it's a worry to everyone. And given that our population is also going up, they are projecting maybe it could be 50 million today, and some years to come will be about 67 million, 70 million. So the housing is a real issue. And the government had a good idea, but implementing that idea is going to be extremely difficult, given that now court went to court. They are not able to collect money from us, which we did not want. So they don't have money to implement 500,000 houses. That's why you find that now they have went silent after court went to court, because as my friend said, that the money we borrow cannot go to this kind of activities. And then another mistake the government did is to discuss more with international developers. For us local developers, I think we have no stake in affordable homes unless we do ourselves, because the kind of security they were asking, you have to deposit 100 million as a security. Optiven, where do we get 100 million idle money? We don't have it. Another security insurance, 40 million. So local developers were technically knocked out. And we had an engagement with the PAs and we were asking, how do we be part and parcel of this housing? Because we need to do it to create more jobs. And then the suggestion was merge, mainly Optiven and others, merge together with others, and then do one project, which is a bit difficult because of competition authority. That means that this idea of half a million, the government has to rethink. You have to work with the local developer. The 7,000 acres they have, they wanted to give these international developers. Is there. Gara is there. Gong Road, there's some land there. The solution will come from local because these international developers, they will come with their money, but as my friend says, that money we pay it dearly. So the solution remains with the local developers. So that if Optiven is developing a property in Kitengela, can they waiver the taxes for people buying those houses? Maybe you don't pay stamp duty, for example. Can we say if you are buying your first home, you are able to get a lower mortgage at a longer time? We need local solutions. And for 2019, I don't foresee the government kickstarting these 500,000 houses. And even if they kickstart, let me tell you, our viewers, that's a drop in the ocean. The need for housing in urban areas, not only in Nairobi, but even out there, it's a lot. The other day I had a meeting with 2 governors, and they are asking Optiven, can you come to my county and do houses for my people? I'll give you a guarantee for buying. They'll buy these houses. You go to the bank, do you have the money? Maybe I need to talk to, we talk to private equity to give us money. That's the challenge, because we are looking for solution out there, yet we have the solution right here. So I sympathize with the government.
So to some extent, we're not buying Kenya, building Kenya.
That's it.
You have something to add?
So I think the government continue borrowing for this year. Actually, there's no doubt about that. Because when I look at it, when we get independent, there was a good road network. There was electricity which was connected, although not all. And then somewhere between independence and 2000, I feel somebody slept on the wheel. So what happened? The development of the country got stalled. Now, when we wake up, we were woken by the world economy, year 2000. And then we realized that we don't have roads, we don't have electricity, we don't have water, and now we are rushing to have connection of the electricity. We are rushing to have homes which have water supply. We are rushing to have the roads done, and that's why we are in debt. We're going to continue being in debt for a while before we get all these projects settled down, so that we can now be able to say that we can now restart repaying the debt, and then now settle the economy will settle.
Okay. You have something to add before we take a break?
Just comment on the national debt. You know, we have no problem with the government borrowing. If only we can see what the money is doing. We say we borrowed 200 billion, we have done this with the money. But for us who pay tax, because we are the people who are financing the debt, when we see the level of corruption, you know, we lose sleep because somebody has taken 2 billion, 3 billion, and let me tell you, if there are people who know to collect tax in this country, is Kenya. By the end of the month, if you are late to submit taxes, you are penalized. The same way, the same vigor they collect the taxes, we want to see the same vigor in implementing these taxes. That's why not only national government, look at the county government, the kind of wastages they are getting involved in taxes. So it's all over. And I call upon our viewers, if you are in the county and you belong to that county, be accountable to the resources, because these resources belong to the community. And if you are the members of the public, raise your voice, because we don't do it, the kind of corruption that is happening in the counties is even bigger than the national government. But we are the people to go and tell our governors, this is not right. Yes.
Okay. Devolved corruption is where we'll take a short break on. He's talking about there's more corruption in the counties than we have in the national government. But nonetheless, we take a short break. We'll be back with more of this discussion. And so you can understand why we have a helmet on our table. We'll get back to that in the next hour after this short break. So back to our discussion. Before we get into the big, deep matters once again, I'd like us to have Alex just show us, you've got an innovation, we call it that, you made. Maybe you can just take us through it, and maybe I'll also try it out.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Actually, here we have a helmet cape that can be used for the boda riders. Otherwise,
you can hold it a bit higher so you can see. Yes.
To give a little genesis of the Cape, when I moved from US to Kenya, I owned a driving school, Midland driving school in Kariuki, and we were doing the training for the boda. So when we were doing the training, we realized that we were training people about using the helmet, but tentatively people were using it for the first 2-3 trips, and then they could just abandon the helmet altogether. So I started working on something after losing my cousin on a boda accident. I started working on innovation that will help come up with a product that will suit the so-called mamamboga or babamboga in the rural area. So in terms of price and disposing, because if we get something that it's not disposable, people will tend to use it once or twice on a different rides. So it will not make sense to have it because different people will use it after all. So I came up with this product called Rock. It's branded by the name Rock, and the Rock is a product that is made of non-woven product material that is disposable. The product itself is sterile, so it can be used by one individual a couple of times. So we are saying that at the point of retail, it is disposable. But at the point of consumer, it is non-disposable. You can use it a couple of times. So maybe you get a ride every morning and every evening. You can use it for maybe 2-3 days. Minimum of around 5 times you can use it. And then you can discard it because it's disposable. Yeah.
Okay. So I know there's been concerns about like hygiene, which is likely partly what informed this, especially the ladies.
Yeah.
Some of those with very nice hairstyles.
Yeah.
Put it
exactly.
that way. Exactly.
Yep.
would not want to wear the helmet.
Yeah.
Much as it's for their own safety. Sometimes the hairstyles may not allow altogether. But this now brings in the dynamic of the hygiene. Especially when you're using a public. The bodas which you're paying for, like I use bodas a lot coming to work, but I usually have to wear my Marvin. Yeah. And so how much are these going for?
This product is going for less than 5 shillings, and we are trying to teach people on how to. You don't have to charge everybody. Like for me, sometimes back I come from Kenyatta and then to town, I get charged like 200, 150. And you look at the distance and the cost. Sometimes, if you give a ride to Mamamboga every morning or every evening, you can always give them for free as a business service to your customers. We are not just saying that we have to make money because you are giving them an extra service. You have to charge them for it.
Okay.
So we are making it very price effective that. You can always go for your customers for free.
Okay, maybe you can demonstrate so that you can actually see, move away from the theory now and see.
Yeah. So the product is very easy to wear. It's as you can feel it. I can give you guys some. You have some. They are very comfortable. Very soft. It's a non-woven material. Yeah. It's sterile. It's disposable, and you just put it in and just put on your helmet. And then from there, you just take it out. Taking it out is the easiest thing. You just take it out and then fold it. And you can either discard it away because it is biodegradable, or you can just put in your pocket. And it's as small as a maybe matchbox or something. Wow. Yeah. It's very small.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do we have any kind of maximum number of times that someone can use this before it gets to a point it becomes also a hygiene risk?
Hygiene risk. Since it's yours, you can use as many times as you want. Minimum at least 5 times. So you can use this many times. If you like, maybe you are a sweaty person, you sweat a lot, maybe you will not use it as many times. Some people, they don't sweat, so you can use it so many fewer times.
Is it flexible enough for different head sizes?
Yeah, it is. It's one size fits all.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where can people get this? Because if for example, the people who are seeing this and would want to know where to get it, where can they access this, or where are you findable on in regards to?
Since we are a new innovative company, which I just moved in, I can always give them my contacts, and then they can directly get from me or from my company. And then we are trying to establish an office. We are trying also to establish a manufacturing plant. Since this is a prototype, it is made out of the country. But now we are working on a way that we can have this product made in Kenya by Kenyans for Kenyans.
Okay.
So we are also working on the big four agenda of manufacturing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so the contact you're saying, if you want, you can share it now.
Yeah.
So that
I can do that. You can reach me at royalesuits@gmail.com. And you can
maybe
reach
you can
me.
spell it out. We'll also write it down, but just spell it out.
Royelle Suit is ROYELSUITS@gmail.com. My phone number is 0739540470, or the other Safaricom line is 0719 41 60 92.
Okay.
Yeah.
We shall have that shared as well. And that the cost being very low would mean that the boda rates should not increase ideally.
Yeah.
If the guy is coming with it.
Actually, the product we worked together with the NTSA Kenya, and then because they were very concerned about the pricing, because all the products that have come in the market about the boda cleanliness and health issues, they have been 20 shillings or more, or 10 shillings or more. So bodas have really refused to adapt the measures. But now, since we were able to come up with the material that will cater for all those needs, they came on board, and I'm glad you're working with the NTSA Road Safety Director, who is Mr. Samuel, trying to implement the product so that it can be one of the boda gears that they have.
Okay, so my final question here is, you said it goes for less than 5 shillings. That is still not really a price.
Yeah.
It gives us a range. Is there a specific price, or do people buy them in bulk, just so we can close this and then move on to the next issue?
Yeah, people can buy it in the bulk, and if you buy it in wholesale, let's just say it's around 4 shillings.
Okay.
For the product.
Okay.
So for the retail, that's what it goes for, like 5 shillings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very good. I mean, we see innovation and which is synced with safety, especially when we've been having so many cases of road carnage, and you find people who are dying on the roads because of not having the appropriate gear. Especially boda riders are some of the the main people largest number of people who die on our roads, unfortunately. And so now, and that is at least a good prospect for 2019. We have entrepreneurs who are still doing their thing amid all the news that we may struggle with, information we struggle with. There has also been a discussion about the census, which again is partly moving into an issue of resource allocation, which then becomes a very touchy issue. So I'll begin from here. What do you think needs to be done to ensure that the resource allocation, is not one that will become an unhealthy, divisive issue in the country?
I think maybe looking at it from a different angle is, how do we make resource allocation so negligible that people don't have to fight over it? So we should be looking at, how do we make counties productive enough that the share that they get from the national government is negligible. Right now the fight is there because that's all they have. As I mentioned earlier, the only county that has double-digit revenue is Nairobi. The rest are, if you have a whole county generating revenue of less than 4 billion, then you sit and you wonder, Safaricom makes 25 billion with 2,000 employees. You have a county that is 100,000 people, and you can only generate revenue of less than 4 billion. Then there is something wrong. So to make it not divisive, I think we need to move away, and the governors need to move away from that of, I will politic until I get the largest share. I will say I'm a minority group, I get the largest share. Nairobi is around 707 square kilometers, one of the smallest. Wachiuri, where our brother was, has a huge landmass. Marsabit has a huge landmass. How do we make that landmass work for Marsabit to generate enough revenue for the county? So the census will come, it's good to know, but it's good for planning, to know, especially in terms of age groups. What is our age population? What are we going to a pressure where we have an aging population? Do we have a young population? So it's all good for fiscal planning, but it should not be used now to canvass for more allocations by governors. I think their mindset needs to, how do we make this revenue allocation so negligible that it's of extra income and make counties actually generate revenue. So if governors can just literally sit down and think, guys, here, we have 707 square kilometers of land. We have this number of population that are here. How do we grow our revenue as a county?
Okay. Yeah. I want to move to you, Faith, just on the same thing about revenue allocation. Maybe any comments on this in regards to making sure that, like you're saying, it's not that much an issue, it's not a divisive issue.
I think the main purpose of devolution was to help counties grow, but it has now become an issue of which county gets more money than the other, instead of these counties generating their own income to help the economies themselves grow. So they still want to look for support from the central government, and instead they should be generating revenue themselves, doing their own businesses internally, and contributing actually to the central government instead of the other way around. So one, it's accountability. I feel like there is very little accountability in the counties. They get the money, and most of them return, at the end of the year, they will return the money they fought so much for to the central government. The government itself is spending about 90% of its budget, which means that they budgeted for some of the things they didn't get to do. So if you're asking for money that you're not actually spending, then something is wrong somewhere. So one is accountability, and number two, also giving, what, as my friend said, is giving targets to these counties. You're supposed to generate this much. The central government can support you this much, but you also have to produce as a county.
Okay, and I just want to now cross over to issues of corruption, which is still something we are trying to deal with. In government as well as in the corporate world. It may be more visible now in government because government has more obligation to, you know, expose their accounts and operations and the likes more than private firms. And do we see like the, I'll begin with you, Mr. Wachiuri, when it comes to the fight against corruption, is the perception working for the economy that the fact that there have been arguments that some of these things maybe have the political inclinations and likes, but the broader perception that's there that the corruption is being fought right from the top, are we already seeing some positivity in regards to the economy?
I would say that when the president was very forthright with it, we were thinking that it will reduce the corruption. But the people who are in court, you know, you cannot read it. Kenyans, a normal Kenyan cannot tell so-and-so was taken to court and the action was taken, the properties were seized, and the resources were taken back to the public coffers. So we don't see the end results. We just see the processes. So it's the processes, no results. And we'll ask the government to keep the fight on so that as the national government does it, as the president does it, the governors can also take it up. And us as Kenyan people, we also support the government because at the end of the day, the cost of corruption is costing us jobs, is costing us a business, SMEs are closing. So it's the battle for all of us from the top to the end. However, we haven't seen a lot of effect because people have gone to court, they have gone back with their resources. We need to do more as a nation. And to echo what Reginald was saying is that these things of census should not be politicized. What the governors need to do, or the county government, is to create environment for people like Optiven to go there and invest and create jobs. What we have seen is that governors are now kings. They are surrounded by bodyguards. Even if you have your own idea, you cannot be able to reach them. You find that it's a small clique managing the counties, and we have now gone. Those county government, they're just like national government. You cannot access the services. And if you make noise, they either block you on their social media or they blacklist you. So Kenyan people thought they would participate in governance of the counties. But it is not happening. The same demigods, they are there and they are big people. They only come to you when they need votes. So as Kenyan people, also we need to audit ourselves. We are responsible for the leaders that we voted. And I saw a joke somewhere that people who get A, they go to be professors. People who get B, they work for government. People who get C, they're entrepreneurs like George Wachiuri here. People who get E and D's, they are now in politics. That was a joke.
and I just want to bring it back before we move to the next person. The real estate sector, like you're saying, is really growing. There's a lot of promise. There's a lot of people looking into the Big Four agenda and tapping into those resources. But the sector has also been cited as being a place where quite a lot of corruption happens, like cleaning money. What is being done? I mean, are we still seeing this happening, one? And what is being done to ensure that, even this corruption, which is now not so much only government, it's now in the private sector, we have many people who are coming to clean money through the real estate sector. What is being done?
Let me say that in the year 2018, there was a policy by government that George cannot take 1 million to the bank and deposit in cash unless I say this is a customer for Optiven who paid money and I'm depositing. And that has really helped the money, the flood, people cleaning money. Because before people could take that money to the bank and they clean it up. So nowadays it's very difficult. Maybe that's why they are talking people putting money in their houses, and there were talks of changing the currency so that the money in people's houses is not, it's irrelevant.
Becomes useless.
Yeah, it becomes useless. And that's a policy that we really recommend the government, that they are able to control the transactions going through financial institutions. So it's no longer easy for people who came with bunches of money and to buy properties and clean it up. Because if I receive in cash maybe 10 million, where do I take it? Yeah.
So do you, if someone comes with cash, will you ask them to deposit it or do you do it yourself?
We have a policy, as we only accept money less than $1 million, or you go and deposit the bank, come with a receipt.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. You have any comment on?
Yeah. Also, I want to echo what Mr. Wachiuri said, because for us, when the fight of corruption started, we thought it would be very successful, and it was successful at some point. But when it comes to the action, it's too much of the barking of the dog, but there's no teeth. So, I'm gonna continue stealing. As long as I'm stealing and they be taken to court, I will be fined 1 million bond. I'll be given a cash bill of 1 million, and I stole 100 million. So I'm good. I can still afford to cover the 1 million. So we need to have the action. The government has to. I love the president what he said. We have to review on the action of the bail. If you steal so much money, there's no way you can be given so much little of the cash bail, because it's not making sense in the common Mwananchi. That's why we are saying there's so much talking about the corruption, but the Mwananchi has not felt any results on it.
But don't you feel like this is a broader culture, because we're the same ones who will be the excess person in the matatu? When you move away from the very top, you're the one who will, I'll have this nice innovation of Alex's. I see it has caught too much sweat and I'll just drop it. You get, I went to say there's a broader culture that and it's even in small businesses. You find if I want to come and set up my stall where you are on your piece of land, I sort of have to give you some incentive or facilitation. There's very many nice words for this. Do we feel that this problem is bigger than what we're seeing in the courts?
I think it is, and it's a matter of integrity, even in our institutions and in our companies and in our homes, and even as human beings, as a person. We might say the government is corrupt, and we complain a lot, but as you said, we keep doing small things that translate to a little bit of corruption every now and then. So it's up to each and every one of us to maintain integrity in their every position, so that even when you're putting the government a task to, you have a moral ground to actually say, I think the government is being corrupt. I don't feel like my money is being spent well, knowing that you're also doing the best you can to reduce corruption at your level, because corruption is not only at the government level. We have a lot of corruption in our institutions, and it's the smallest things. You will tell someone they need you to do something, but you need them to facilitate it. The small fee you pay for that, it's still corruption. So we seem not to see it, and it's very bad, because we are ranked at number 87 of 120 countries in terms of corruption, and it's a really bad position to be in. And they look at everything, even to the integrity of small companies. So it's not the government only that's corrupt. I think even small institutions down here, we need to still do a lot.
Okay, thank you. And maybe you've got any comment in regards to the aspect of corruption and how it's eating into the promise of the country.
If you look at corruption in terms of, let's look at it in terms of economics. If you look at Kenya's money supply for the last 5-6 years, it's grown by close to 50%. And it's one of the tools that central bank can control to try and grow the economy. Because when money supply grows, ideally demand is supposed to grow, manufacturers will manufacture more because of high unemployment, so it will not cause inflation. So we can say central bank has done their bit there. But money supply only becomes effective on something called the velocity of money. So if I come to you, let's assume you're a barber, and I pay my 500 shillings for a haircut, and you take your 500 shillings and you go to the butcher and you buy some meat. The butcher takes that 500 shillings and goes to drink coffee at a restaurant. That restaurant guy goes to. So you find that same 500 has paid for things worth more than 500. So that's the velocity of money. But what corruption does is, because this is stolen money and most of it is actually not spent. So you have money supply growing, but the velocity of money reducing, meaning that there is no economic growth. There is no impact of in the economy, making the economy grow. There's an Asian country that actually said, it's okay, you can steal, but that money should not leave the country. It forces the people to use the money. The problem with us Africans is we steal, and we go stash it in Swiss bank accounts, Kenyan islands, and all. So we steal it out of the economy. So if you're going to steal, then build a hospital. That's okay. You cannot give you that bail for 1 million, but at least it's benefiting. It has continued the velocity of money. And corruption has reached a point, it's a cultural problem. Like what you said, it goes down to the smallest person. Even parents bribe children. Eat your food, I'll give you.
Yes.
So you're already
the culture begins at home.
Exactly. You're already putting that culture of I have to pay something to get something done. Wow. And for cultural change to take place, I know the president joked one day and says, do you want me to put them in Uhuru Park in front of a firing squad? Singapore did it and it worked. Still 2 billion, and you know the next day on a firing squad, trust me, before you make that corrupt deal, you'll think 2-3 times before you do it.
Okay, and I know the firing squad one is a scary one for many. But the problem is some guys feel they know the guy who orders the firing squad. Yeah. You know, that's
shoot blanks.
Exactly. But you just make sure you can get a lookalike or something. That's the challenge of corruption. It goes so deep. Yeah, exactly. You think you've got someone, then tomorrow you see him walking around the streets, wondering, I thought we shot this guy. You know, just say it's a doppelganger. When we talk about the cost of living now in general, there has been the concern that it's really high. You know, the same 1,000 bob that you'd use 5-10 years ago can buy significantly less than what you can do now. You know, someone was telling me, I thought things are not that expensive, so I went to shop for my house. I had carried 2,000 bob. I picked things into the basket. It came to 5,000 and something. And that's when it hit the person that this cost of living I keep hearing on the news is actually a real thing. You know, what needs to be done? You know, what needs to be done to try and make us breathe, so to speak? Or as we see more loans being taken for, as has been said, development, do we still see ourselves having now to adapt and innovate around that reality? Wachiuri.
Wow, the cost of living, yes. I think as Kenyan people, we are consuming international products from China, South Africa, including fruits, eggs, fish. And as long as we are consuming products from out, we are paying more money out there. And our farmers are suffering. We are buying maize from Uganda and other countries, where a farmer cannot even sell the cost of production of that one bag. And we find that as the culture issue, we like foreign things, you know. Unless we change from my mother in Kieni, unless we change from there, that you're able to grow sukuma wiki, you supply to the villages, you're able to grow vegetables, so that we start from the things we consume, the agriculture. And but as long as we are going to import fish, when Onyango in Kisumu has got production, he has nowhere to sell this fish, we'll keep seeing this cost of living going up because we create market for other people. We make our market, our produce, die in the lands. And I don't know, I'm not an economist, but we need to do something to ensure that we are consuming what we produce. That's why the campaign for Buy Kenya, Build Kenya is good, if we can all support it. For us who are in construction, we need to say, yes, we need furniture for the houses we are doing. Do we buy those furniture from Gong Road? And maybe we fine-tune these carpenters to do a better job. We partner with them. So it has to start with us who are consuming these products. When we go to manufacturing, for example, we are importing a lot of tissue paper. Our industries are dying who are manufacturing tissue paper. So at the end of the day, you find the price escalating. I was so amazed yesterday. I saw what Rwanda is doing, our neighbor here. They said, anybody doing manufacturing up to this level, we are going to supply power at zero cost for free. You can imagine if today the government says people in that area doing manufacturing or EPZ zones, the power is at zero. You'll find some of these products coming down. But as long as power is up, the fuel is up, our Wajiko will keep suffering.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I'll bring some the product we are talking about here. This product, when we made it outside the country, this product will cost at least, for it to fit in the market, it will cost at least 8 shillings. 7 shillings and 50 cents to 8 shillings. This is due to the transport costs, clearing and forwarding, and also when they value the product, they use the dollar, international currency, that is the dollar. Now, here is the problem. When you use the dollar figure, as I lived in US, a cup of coffee in US is $2. Sounds very small, $2. But $2 in Kenya, it is 200 shillings. Same coffee that I can take down the street for 50 shillings, I can pay the same cup of coffee in US for 200 shillings. So when you have these products come anywhere outside the border, they increase the cost. If we can have these products grown in Kenya, if it's fish, get the fish from Kenya. If it's eggs, get them from Kenya. It will drastically reduce the value, the cost of that product, so that the price, the living standard, or the price of the product will come down, so that it can be affordable to everybody. But as soon as we continue getting these products, as simple things we get them from outside the country, they will always be expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cost of living. What's your comment on this, in light of thinking ahead into 2019?
I'll go back a bit in 2018 when the government decided to tax its people with the aim of increasing the revenue collection. So they increased the fuel tax, which ideally will increase the cost of everything that is manufactured or produced in an industry that uses fuel. It also increased the transport cost. And this is a Kenyan who uses matatu every day. They'll go home, they'll need to use their kerosene lamp or to cook or to light their houses. So if these things become expensive, then the common mwananchi also gets has less money to spend. That is one. And then at the same time, they have to let out more money from their pockets to buy a packet of unga or to buy a few tomatoes. So the cost of living is expected to go up, mainly because increasing taxation is going to have people have less money in their pockets, and number two, if the fuel tax is the effect is still being felt, and it's going to affect a lot of parts of the economy, manufacturing especially. So I think it's something that is going to continue in 2019. But what needs to be done is, if we are able to see where the revenue that is being collected is going to. So for example, if they're collecting more revenue in terms of taxes, if they build better transport systems for the Kenyans, such that they don't have to pay so much on, if we had a train and we didn't have to pay so much on matatus or transport, then you see you're helping the Kenyan mwananchi. But now you collect to go and pay debt, as my friend says here, then it doesn't have a ripple effect that is beneficial to the person who is paying the taxes. So it eventually increases the cost of living.
So I mean, the recurring concern here is people not seeing where their
Yes.
money is going.
Yes.
And which, again, is not one that will stop coming up over and over again, which becomes the issue. What are your comments on the cost of living looking to the year?
Cost of living will remain high. You'll find, and not necessarily because we're not doing buy Kenya, do Kenya, buy Kenya. I'll give you an example of sugar. Uganda, the Ugandan sugar farmer produces more per hectare than a Kenyan sugar farmer at close to 20–30% less cost. So when Uganda sugar comes into Kenya, it's cheaper than Kenyan sugar. I've been heavily taxed, so I'm there in my shop, I'm thinking, Kenyan sugar, buy Kenya, build Kenya, 400 shillings. Ugandan sugar, 100 shillings. I've already paid KRA half of my salary. Why should they go build Kenya with that? Yeah. Right now I'm trying to now cut my cost and cut my saving. So I'll buy the cheaper sugar. So what our policymakers need to sit down and think is, let's sit down and say, why is this country producing sugarcane or sugar cheaper than us? What do we need to fix that? Why is maize flour cheaper in Tanzania than in here? What do we need to fix that? But truth be said, we cannot go protectionist and say we're going to have it. But even some of these things, if you put so much duty on them to come in, they're still cheaper when they land in, even with so much duty. We cannot compete with China and India and stuff like that because cost of labor is very, very low. Cost of power is very low. So the government needs to sit down and say, what incentives do we need to put in place to produce more, provide more? Some of those is a reduction in electricity cost. So instead of charging this guy 50% in tax so that you can pay Kenya Power to generate more, reduce his tax to 20–30% on corporate tax, provide him cheaper electricity, he will produce more and sell it cheaper in the market. That's number one on cost of living. Number two on cost of living, as much as it's going to be high, I think also as Kenyans we need to reach a point where we learn that we need to learn how to save. It's a big problem in the country which is not being discussed, that you will find in a couple of years' time, it's going to come and bite us very hardly. Someone said that the rich remain rich because they live like broke people. Broke people remain broke because we want to live like rich people. It's a year we are saying cost of living is going to be high. Be frugal in what you're going to do. As long as the sugar works, it's not mercury, buy the cheapest brand. Yeah? Use the most cheapest means and all and save. Once you start saving and all, you'll find now issues of cost of living become an entity to you as an individual. My friend mentioned about transport. The traffic problem or a traffic problem in a country is a symptom. So you don't need to widen the roads. You don't need to get money from a place to do a flyover. Fix the public transport problem, and I leave my car at the house. If I know I can pay 20 bob to come to town, why will I drive a car and pay 2,000 shillings in fuel and come and pay 200 for Kanjo and live without my side mirrors? I would literally pay 20 bob to come to town. So most of the times we borrow money to fix symptoms and we don't take time to sit down and say, we have a traffic problem. Is it the road or we have too many cars? If we have too many cars, why do we have too many cars? Because our public transport system has failed. So let's fix that. Then it fixes ripple effects. But you spend a lot of money dualizing Wachiuri, making Mombasa to Nairobi a 10-track tarmac, and you spent billions on the SGR, and you wonder, so just because someone said, I'll give you money, and this money you use it to do this. And
but how would you solve the issue of I mean, you're saying there are too many cars. What would the solution be if not widening the roads, for instance?
Fix the public transport problem.
So people have to use their cars less.
Leave your car at home. You can use your car when you're driving to Nakuru and all. But if I'm coming to town, I'll give you an example. In London, driving your car into London is so expensive. Guys would rather use a bike or use the metro. Here our MCAs sit and say, no, Sonko, you're not going to increase the parking in town. Reduce it to 200 bob. Then the next day complaining, there's too much traffic. Because everyone can afford to bring their car to town where they do not need to bring the car to town. Boss Bernard, if you have a car, it will be parked in this basement for 8 hours, 9 hours. Why did you bring it to town?
so that I don't use a bike at night when I'm leaving. And we have to come to a close of the show. So I just want to give some final comments as we close. And I'll begin with Wachiuri. And even in your final comments, very briefly, because we just have about a minute and a half or so to go. The concern, you know, as we say, we want the local businesses to be given these contracts, to be given this work. There has been a concern, one, about the quality. The quality at times does not match up to what we get from abroad, which is the reality. And like, you know, he's alluded to that. If I find that I'm going to buy a pen, which has been made in Kenya, and at a point sometimes it's not going to be up to standard, but I find another one which is going to serve me. It won't embarrass me when I'm busy explaining to my boss something, then it goes blank. You know, I want one that will not be an inconvenience. There's an aspect of quality and also the high cost of production, which is part where, like you said, you'll end up buying things that have come from China or elsewhere, even when they're not fakes, at lower prices than that. So your final comment as we close the show.
Okay, thank you. I think for Kenya, there's hope in 2019, and for us as individuals is that whatever we are doing, we do to our best. We support government policies, and also we correct them when they are wrong. And for people who are out there who are entrepreneurs like George Wachiuri here, is that whatever you are doing, do it creatively. And for people who own businesses, it's a high time that we also think on how to create these job opportunities for our young people, because it's a time bomb. And I'm happy to say that Kenyans are very, very hardworking. And people who are talented out there, and I'm happy the government is talking about TVET, you know, taking people to Polytechnic to produce these things you are paying is low quality, because once we train our people, Kenyan people are the best. I was in the US the other day, and they were saying that if you're looking for somebody to hire in the US, if a Kenyan applies, they consider Kenyan first, because we know that we are hardworking, we are able to work. So talents out there that can produce the things that we can use in Kenya, we can mentor them, we can do mentorship, and we can be able to produce as good things as other countries are doing, because we have what it takes. Some of these products we are using, they are done by Kenyan out there. Go to Rwanda. People who are controlling that economy, they are Kenyan people. So we have the talents, we have what it takes. And for entrepreneurs out there, let's do our best, because this is our nation. We have resources, we have opportunities, we can be able to create these opportunities and create change. And don't give up because you think that the high cost of living is going to be high. It's the high time that we work extra harder to make a difference in this nation.
Thank you, Alex.
Yep, thank you. Kenyans are actually the most hardworking people in the world. They are well known. Actually, that's true. And I will say also that the prospects of 2019, they are very bright for new entrepreneurs. But also I'll ask the government to help the upcoming entrepreneurs in financing, planning, and training of how to do business entrepreneurship. Other than that, things look good for the year coming up. Okay. And the sky is the limit for the young entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Faith, briefly.
For me, it's two key things. We need, the government needs to support the economy, one by improving the view of Kenya from the investors from outside. The investor sentiment for Kenya right now is not very good, so we need to do better to improve it. And it's going to improve our stock exchange, and it's going to improve more investors will want to come in. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Closing.
I think 2019 will be a year of tough policy decisions that need to be made, and if we fail to do it, we are just digging our graves, not just at the national level, even at the county level, even in individual people's houses. When you make your own budget and plan for the year, people need to take a bit of tough policy decisions. And also my appeal to the banking sector, insurance sector, and the fund management industry and the regulators, let's be better allocators of funds for a better Kenya.
Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady. We appreciate your input on this. And just to let you know that we've been discussing about 2019, the business and economy outlook on various issues. It's a topic we cannot exhaust in just about just under 2 hours of discussion, but nonetheless we've covered some key topics, and we've had some of the views from some of the people in the counties. And we have George Wachiuri, the CEO of Optiven Group, who's been with us, Alex Kariuki, the CEO of Royelle Group, Faith Maina, investment analyst at Cytonn, and Reginald Kadzutu, chief investment officer at Amana Capital. Which country are you from?
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. So he said Kenyans are the most hardworking, and he was nodding saying no. I will talk about your economy, yeah, but and that you're working in Kenya, but I'll not go there. And like Alex had showed us, he's got his innovation. So those of you who used to do this would be a very great innovation. And he said his contacts are royellesuits@gmail.com. That's ROYELESUITS@gmail.com. His number is 0719-416-092 or 0739-540-470. And it's time for us to ride out of here. Take our ride out of here. Thank you for joining us on NTV Today. My name is Dann Mwangi. We'll be having more of NTV Today in the week going along. But aside from that, you can see already has his helmet. He's showing you how to do it. But NTV Sasa starts in just a bit.